Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo, Budaya, Salam, Kebajikan. First, I would like to honor my academic speaking class lecturer, Sir Muhammad Candra. As always, I would like to say and give my greatest gratitude for you and all of the audiences who are watching this video right now. Thank you for giving me the opportunity for me to deliver this speech or presentation in a form of video. So ladies and gentlemen, before I continue further, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dedi Ariansyah. I'm actually a third semester student of the University of Maritime Raja Ali Haji, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. Currently, I am majoring in English Language Department since 2023. So the purpose of this video is actually to fulfill the final project or the final assignments from my academic speaking class. Whereas in this task, I have to find a specific insightful paper or research article and then elaborate it by making this video. So in this occasion, I have found one article which entitled as Characteristic of Facilitated Critical Thinking when Students Listens to and Speaks English as an Additional Language in Indonesia. This study was actually brought and conducted by 3 students from the University of Adelaide, Australia. Namely, those 3 students are Ricky Fernandes, alongside with his friend John Willison, and the last one is Christopher Boyle. Interestingly, the reasons I chose this research paper or this article was because it was published on one of the high-level or high-tier journal, which is known as Thinking Skills and Creativity 2024, provided by Elsevier from Science Direct. That alone should be enough to describe that this paper is one of the high-level or high-tier article that contains a very detailed information, valuable lessons, and advanced or credible sources. For the content itself, it actually offers a case study on how critical thinking is facilitated on school, which in this paper, it's actually facilitated in a year 10 English as an additional language class in Indonesia. So, I would like to tell you why this article is interesting. Mostly, it talks about critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Why critical thinking matters and how to develop it with certain method. Well, according to this paper, critical thinking is globally recognized as a key of educational goal. Why? Because with critical thinking, it will help students to solve problems, make informed decisions, and to think independently. For a developing country like Indonesia, like our country, fostering critical thinking is not just about improving individual performance, but also about enhancing the country's global competitiveness. So in the future, if Indonesian students are able to master the critical thinking skills, they would be able to navigate challenges like industrial revolutions and global concerns such as sustainability, equity, and technological advancement. And then how to develop these critical thinking skills? Well, there are actually several ways to develop critical thinking skills, where in this or based on this article or paper, the researchers actually focus on EAL method that has been applied before in Indonesia. What is EAL? EAL stands for English as an Additional Language. EAL serves as a powerful tool for critical thinking development because it contains listening and speaking activities. These activities require students to actively process information, engage in dialogue, and justify their reasoning. All of them which are beneficial and can have an advantages to increase critical thinkings of the students. In Indonesia, it has been applied since the 2013 curricula. So now we've come into the research objective and what are the researchers going to explore by making this paper. So after knowing that the Indonesia had applied the EAL method before in schools, now the researchers are trying to find out about two fundamental parts. The first questions is what are the perceptions and practices of Indonesian EAL high school teachers regarding critical thinking facilitation in listening and speaking, and then the researchers would also like to know about the students' outcome by making the questions what are the characteristics of students' critical thinking that emerge when they listen to and speak in English as an additional language. To address all of that questions, the researchers actually employ a qualitative case study approach as the methodology, which is, I think, ideal for gaining deep insight into this specific context, right? So the researchers actually conducted 3 data collection steps. The first one is pre and post interview with a teacher, and then a weekly classroom observation from January to May 2023, and then also an analysis of lesson plans, curriculum materials, and assessment practice. So for the interview part, the researchers actually had an interview with a teacher called Elisa. She has 7 years of teaching experience and is proficient in English. Why did she become the subject of this study? Because Alicia is recognized for her commitment to integrating critical thinking into her lesson, even though she is having a significant challenges. So after doing that, after having the interview sessions with Elisa, now we've come into the finding or the data collection from the methodology. So according to this paper, Elisa conceptualized critical thinking as the ability to analyze evidence, evaluate multiple perspectives, and propose solutions to the problems. Her lessons are designed to engage students in discussions about real-world issues, encouraging them to think critically and articulate their ideas in English. So, in instance, Elisa actually gave a lessons that focused on the debate over relocating Indonesia's capital city, a topic that resonates with students due to its national significance. And after having this discussion with the students, Elisa aimed to foster skills such as evaluating argument, questioning assumptions, and proposing alternative solutions. However, even though Elisa is trying to integrate critical thinking into her lessons or her class, she had to face several challenges, such as the curriculum materials provided by the government are outdated and heavily focused on grammar and writing, leaving title room for listening and speaking activities. Additionally, many students are reluctant to participate in discussion due to the fear of making mistakes or being judged by their peers. So to address these challenges, Elisa actually supplements the curriculum with external materials and adopts strategies such as scripting exercise where students prepare written responses before speaking. This study also reveals the moment of rich critical thinking among students during class discussions. For example, during the lessons on relocating the capital city provided by the teacher Elisa, students actually critically analyze the benefit and drawbacks of the move. For example, there is one moment from the discussion sessions where two students, Hansen and also Felicia, they have feedback to each other and give questions to each other regarding the critical thinking and the discussions. Hansen, a student, argued that the relocation would address Jakarta's water issues by improving irrigation system. Felicia, on the other side, questioned this assumption by highlighting the challenges of water scarcity during the dry seasons. So now we've come into the conclusions and implication. Knowing that we already have the findings, The study concludes that critical thinking in EAL listening and speaking can be a powerful tool for students' engagement and learning. As we can see and as we can conclude from the finding, Elisa, she is a teacher that is trying to foster critical thinking into her lessons. Did it work out? Yes, it did. It did work out. The outcome was the students who were having the discussions, they were able to forward the discussion furthermore. And after that, Elisa's effort demonstrated even in resource-limited settings, meaningful critical thinking facilitation is possible through creativity and commitment. However, systemic barriers such as outdated curricula, inadequate resources, and mismatched assessment limit the potential of critical thinking in EIL classroom. So that was the conclusion. And then we also have an implications. First is the curriculum reform. There is a need to redesign syllabi to include listening and speaking activities that align with critical thinking objective, because as we all knew before, Elisa, the subject of the study, was struggling because of the outdated materials that didn't include listening and speaking activities, which would be a struggle for her to do the critical thinking objective. And then the second implication is teacher training. There should be a professional development program that focuses on equipping teachers with strategies to foster critical thinking effectively, so that in the future, a lot of teachers would be able to develop their own strategies regarding their critical thinking effectively. And then the third implication is student support. There should be an activities that can build their confidence and reduce anxiety, knowing that there are still some students out there who are afraid of being judged by their peers, so that maybe in the future, some students or those students who are struggles would participate more actively in discussions. So that was the discussions and implications. That's all I have to say about. Thank you for listening and watching till the end. I would like to say my greatest gratitude again. Once again, thank you, Sir Muhammad Candra, for giving me this opportunity. Let me close this presentation by saying Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.